Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the CSUN Performance Ensemble Presents a Conversation with. I am your only host for today. My name is Fernando Martinez, and we have a guest who, leading up to the uh, um, debut of the Fall 2020 show, we have somebody here that is going to help us get a little bit excited, a little bit more excited about it. You guess, would you like to present yourself?
Sure. I'm Tiffany Bosch, and I identify as she, her, and hers. Those are my pronouns. So, hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And this is, oh, I have a lot of thoughts already. But yeah, as we're leading up to the release of the uh, performance for the season, for the performance ensemble, because I know that they're doing it over the course of 2 days, I believe. It to me, it's so weird because I feel like the last few weeks it's been all about promoting the show, right?
Mhm.
And I've sort of been helping with that, but I'm not necessarily too involved with what the show is looking like right now, so I don't really know what it looks like. And typically, I've been really involved, and so it's interesting for me. Um, so I think that's why it's really exciting to have you on here. Um, I think it's also interesting because I think that of all the people that are in the ensemble right now, you're the one that I've like worked with a little bit more. And so I know a little bit about I know your piece, um, but other people don't. And I think that we're gonna have to talk about that. But before we do, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up here? Why are you talking to me right now?
Why am I talking to you right now? Well, I'm in performance ensemble, and this is my first year in performance ensemble. That's a huge bottle. Jeez. Um, that took me by surprise. Um, like I said, first year in performance ensemble, but I was in Dr. Jade's class for poetry and performance, and I really style. And I've been in and out of college. I'm one of the older students, been in and out of college for 30 plus years. And I really appreciate and love performing. And when I came to CSUN, I thought, yes, of course, I have communication classes that I need to check off my list. But whilst doing that, why not be interactive with a class and not just, absorbing material, reading material, writing material? I needed to physically do material. I needed to be involved in some way to, I guess, quench my thirst of performing.
That's yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. And I think this is a question that I've been asking everybody, or at least like the last few weeks, because since you are new, this is the first time that you're doing this. You also signed up for this class knowing that it was going to be online. Like it wasn't like last semester where we transitioned for obvious reasons. But did that like deter you a little bit, knowing that it's not only is it a performance class, but it's an ensemble class, right? Like it's group work, and you signed up for it knowing that it was going to be online. Did that deter you a little bit? Did you hesitate trying to join the ensemble?
Well, that's a really good question. I didn't think it was going to be online. I love the fact that it was ensemble. I have seen her shows before. I watched last year's show. It was really cool. I love the energy that everyone brought to the table. So I was really looking forward to being part of a group. And when you're faced with virtual, you really can't have the tactile aspect of performance. And so this is really making us all kind of pivot and learn how to be an ensemble whilst being virtual. And it's really hard. Um, I like to talk to people and watch people and see how they move and get feedback. And I feel like this was hard for me because you're still a lone wolf. I'm still over here in my little apartment, and everyone else is across the street in their own little bubbles. And so it is hard. Would I sign up again virtually? Um, Maybe, but I think the class would have to, the class needs a caveat in the description. I think it has to, it's morphed into something different. Not to say that it's bad, it's just people do very well over virtual because they can prepare differently. But my background is improv. And so with this, it's a little bit more, my stage fright gets the worst of me sometimes. So if you couple all that together, no, I didn't know it was going to be virtual. Did it deter me after I found out? No, because why not? I like Dr. J. I like her classes. I like her style. So I'm along for the ride, and I jumped in with both feet. So for anybody looking to take this class, definitely say take it, but just know that virtual, you're not going to get that hand-to-hand feeling that you can have with this ensemble. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and that's interesting because I feel like again it's just one I mean I think this is the case with everything that's happening in the world, but it's again one of those examples of you don't know what you have until you lose it. You know,
Mhm.
like you don't realize how good it was to because this is the thing and you know our other two guests like they know me very well. Like I'm a very um I run hot easily. Um, and so whenever Sir, for example, who's a TA in this, an assistant in this class, does these exercises because they do a lot of movement, I'm like, nah, I need to leave. Like I hate this. Like I don't like moving, right? When it comes to warming up and all that stuff. But now that it's not there, like I can't even imagine what that feels like to know that um, you can't like be in a room and, like in the black box room just like be all sweaty and gross with
Right.
people and like that's you miss it. And so that is interesting that you know this is something that you guys have to um cope with. I don't know if that's the right word.
I
Because you
like
know
how you say you run hot, as in like I can't move at all.
no, it's really bad. Like that's what I was known for. It's so bad. There was one time where we had to wear like like nude colors, and it was just I was scared because I'm like, man, I'm just gonna sweat through all of this. But anyways, yeah, it's interesting how you have to navigate something that you like. You just blew something, and you have to navigate it that way. And you sort of talked about how you know you get to prepare differently and how everybody's doing things from their own bubbles and when we spoke to Mitchell, it was interesting because for him, I think that it was really exciting because there's a lot of people that are very in tune with just video editing or music production and all these things. And I know that some of us aren't really that good at that stuff.
It's a very
Um,
solitary, um, um, what's that called? What is the word I'm looking for? It's a solitary existence when you can be a composer or an editor or a filmmaker or a music maker and you're doing it all solo. Ensemble is not like that, but some people that appreciate themselves and not rely on other people, this is a a heyday. This is awesome for them.
yeah, and I guess my question, yeah, that's, I mean, it's funny though because it 'cause, I mean, those people also join for the same reason, like, or maybe for different reasons too, but like they join knowing that it's a group thing and now they get to essentially work asynchronously, right? And then just like mash together. But then for you, what did you do to sort of make it work, right? Like you're telling me that you do all these, like you do improv, like that's your thing, like you need to be there and you can't. So how do you make do?
Well, you would know firsthand. I did my first project, and of course, I'm not into it, like I told you, and so I'm doing another project. People like that. My mindset is I want to be the best. I want to be better. And when you're improv, it is what it is, and you just have to take your shot. And if people laugh or people are engaged, it's like, yeah, I scored. But if you're preparing and doing all this, your mind is your worst enemy. And so I'm having a hard time with that because I want it to be better and the best version. I want to get the most, oh wow, that's deep, or oh wow, that sucks. Or, oh, wow. And I'm finding that difficult in this way of communicating. I'm finding it a little difficult, but hey, we are human. We have to pivot and we have to adapt. And I'm adapting, but it is rather difficult considering my need to make it the best, better, better, better.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I it's because I've been thinking about this too, where you know, obviously when you're doing this, like the whole purpose is to um, do this whole show with whatever tagline or idea or just theme that Jade gives you, right? Like our director gives you. But then obviously, I think that on an individual level, everybody has their own goals, like the things that they want to achieve with their performance. And I mean, it seems like for you, it's to have something that the audience can get, right? Like having something so visceral and in person for them to get. And so, um, I mean, that I just feel like that's going to be an ongoing struggle. And because things aren't getting better in this country, I can't even imagine anybody going back to school in person anytime soon. So again, it's just one of those things that you're going to have to keep doing, right? And like, not just you, I mean, anybody in general. But speaking of things that are sort of struggles, as you guys were leading up to your final performance that's happening in 2 weeks, were there any struggles or any bumps in the road that you guys hit?
I would definitely, like I was saying before, I want my piece to be really good. And, you know, I'm in a class of very talented people. And it's like going skiing with someone that's not as good as you. You have to go to ski, you have to go skiing with someone that's better than you. So you push yourself. So it's really easy to throw things up against the wall and say, okay, here's my performance. But for people that are in this class, we take it seriously. And so you have to keep being better and better and redoing it and adjusting it. And, you know, I don't remember what your question was, but I think that that's hard. But it's, I guess, the best part of it as well, because you're going to get something better. Um, let me go back for a second. When she gave us the rites of passage, there's so many things that go in your mind. You're like, oh, rites of passage. I am a Native American Indian, and part of our rites of passage are we go, you know, at 13 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old, and we go out for 3 months or 3 weeks, and we have to forage and find our own food. Or it could be, you know, I'm a Jewish woman. I was raised Jewish. We have a bar bat mitzvah. So everyone has a rite of passage. But because of the political climate, there's so much more that's involved. There's so much more than just the regular rites of passage. It's being able to practice your rites of passage, practice who you are, and be accepted for it. That's, in this political climate, that's changed just practicing what we want to practice. So that's where I think the difficulty lies. Is that's why it's such an important topic for this show, because it's not so black and white. Oh, this is who you are. This is your rite of passage. Everything's changed because it's not. People don't accept people, or it's come more to the surface now. Um, so it's thought provoking. The
Yeah,
topic is very thought provoking.
yeah, it is. Um, man, okay, so there's a lot that you said there that I, well, one found interesting, but also wanted to respond to, or I guess ask questions based off of. Um, at first, you were talking about how it was both a good thing and sort of a struggle, right? That because everybody's taking it so seriously, that you just want to keep doing better and better and better. And I think that the only piece that I've seen was yours, like I said earlier, because uh, I was involved in one way or another, right? So it was interesting to me because I mean that's what it was for you. Like you created something and you showed it, and then and then you basically said, I can do better, and I can do better, and I can do better. And it's like, at what point do you stop, right? Especially when you have other people in your ensemble that are the same. So I can
I guess when I
imagine.
don't feel like something's missing, that's when you stop. When you're like, okay, I've closed the circle. I can stop now. You were involved in my pieces because people like me that are performance driven are like, hey, let's get out there and move and do things. Sometimes we are handicapped in I guess the video editing side of things. We need people to help us take our ideas and put them together, and that's your blessing. You know, that's your gift. So to answer your question, we won't know it's done until we don't feel like, God, I could have done so much better, or God, my message is not even clear.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like this for you. Like whenever you finish performing something or doing something on stage, or in a class or whatever, but sometimes I think I'm done, but that's what I leave it as. Like I don't even know if I am, right? But I think I am. And then once I do it, and you generally get a lot of good feedback from your audience members. The transition to online last semester was so well received. It was insane how like positive everything was. But it's just like people are still beating themselves over the head because it's like, this wasn't good. Like we could have, like it's funny how that works out. We're so hard on ourselves.
Of course. And usually after I perform, I cry. I've always been like that. Even, I mean, I'm talking like theater when I was 10 or theater when I was 7, all the way through my first 2 rounds of college. And then I was in the groundlings. And every time I would perform, I would shake and I would forget, once I would forget myself, what was so great, forget myself. And I was really involved in the character. And then when I was done, people were like, wow, you just completely left your body. I would be like, okay, great, thanks. And I'd leave and I'd cry because it was like I was able to express myself. But here in this platform, you have to just validate yourself unless the class is watching your performance, like watching your video, and their reactions give you that. But we're not going to see those reactions in the show. I don't know how it's going to play out, but we are hard on ourselves,
Yeah,
100%. Really
I can imagine,
hard.
man. And so then another thing that you said that is, I mean, I think scary, but also interesting is, like, because you mentioned the whole political climate, and what's crazy is if it's just that every single day that like, there's been just multiple headlines, right? Every single day, not only for like from the last 4 years, for example, with the presidency, right? But just in the last 8 months alone have been so chaotic. And I think this is something that we brought up last time. It's just like, how do you keep up with everything, right? And I guess I'm wondering, like, was that a hard for, I don't know, maybe you or for somebody else in the ensemble, like, was it difficult to have to write about something and then suddenly it's not being talked about anymore? We've moved on to something else, right? Because there's so many things that have happened in the last, I mean, even in the last 3 months alone, right? Was that a struggle to keep up with this sort of ever changing political climate and just everything happening in the world?
It was very difficult because what I wanted to do is go out on the street corner where they're holding Black Lives Matter signs, and you, when you're walking across the street, you stand there and say, yes, Black Lives Matter, and you put your hand up and you say, everybody beep your horns. This has to be heard. I wanted to turn and interview the people that stand there day after day after day. And then I think, okay, what about turning my camera to this other person and asking about their struggle? Person. And this is a group that's marginalized, and this is a group that's being hit hard right now. But that's when I had to take the step back and figure, okay, this is supposed to be personal. So yes, I see the fantastic spirit on the corner of my house, and that speaks to me. And yes, I see my friends who are marginalized, and I see on social media, and I see in the news people that are just treated like crap, and people that are not respected and just pushed down and just made to feel less than. But then like I told Dr. Jade, I felt like if it needs to be personal how I feel, I had to find something that really hit me hard. So not only these things around me, and it's from the news or from what I'm seeing in front of me or from friend groups, but I had to figure out that's a good story, and people have their story, and me as a witness witnessing their story, but what's my story? So in answer to your question, I got there, but it took me a long time to get there, to find
Mm.
my story.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of those things too where maybe it's also just like because because it does sort of, I don't want to say contradict, but being told that you're doing something that technically is social justice work, right? But at the same time has to be uh, personal. Um, and obviously they can intertwine. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's a lot harder to produce work that can do both or just stick to one, and it can become stressful, right? So yeah, that's an interesting thing. I keep bringing up a lot of the conversations that we've sort of had with people on this show in the last few weeks because a lot of it was like on this week, like this thing happened, and so we wrote about this. But then on this week, something bigger happened, so now we want to write about this, and it's just um, I don't. I think this a lot of this just sort of for me adds to the excitement about of the show, right? Like I don't know what to expect.
Totally.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just like I don't know what to expect, and that's the thing too about belonging to certain communities is that you can belong to multiple communities, and it doesn't always have to be like race based or ethnic based communities. It can be other kinds of communities, right? Um, and so it's just interesting to see what you guys are going to do. And so moving forward, I wanted to ask you more because you brought it up a little bit, but I wanted to ask you more in detail if you're okay with giving us spoilers about what your performance is about. Like you don't have
Oh
to detail the whole thing if you want to talk.
gosh.
Yeah, so
Well, you
maybe,
know, I'm the two completely different performances that I'm going to say, okay, Dr. Jade, you pick. Or I might even say, Fernanda, you tell me which one you like better. I mean, I know what one in my mind is better because it's really personal to me, and I'm so shocked about what I have found just in the last. It's so relevant, but yet you think, wow, I didn't think this was relevant right now, but it's relevant. Mine, did you want to know what it's about? Is that what you're asking?
yeah, I wanna give some spoilers.
Okay, like I said, it's personal, so I'm gonna step from the original plan and go to the now plan that I'm hoping is going to work out, Fernando. Um, it's basically about being a Jewish woman and seeing all over wherever you walk or wherever you're online, just seeing like swastikas and terrible Nazi paraphernalia everywhere. And I can't believe it's happening in this day and age. And it's shocking. And I found that I can't sleep. And so a lot of my thoughts happen and I don't have cable. I have my internet on my laptop, and so I watch TV in my bed or in my living room or something. Isn't that funny? Because when we were growing up, everything was cable. So now I'm watching my computer, and if I'm done watching a show, I might scroll through images online of what's happening, and the images that I've seen that are now are frightening. And so it got me thinking, and so I was thinking about being in bed and before you sleep and what goes on in your mind and the images that are getting soaked into your brain and your subconscious before you sleep. And then you wake up and I was walking my dog and I was humming this song. And so it's just so in my mind, it looks powerful. Again, I feel sometimes I can get handicapped that I'm not really good with video editing and flashes in front of the screen and all that. So I'm just hoping it translates well, but the intention is there. The intention is this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm absorbing into my blood and into my body and into my subconscious. And I'm almost 50 years old and this is still happening and it's 2020. So I just, so that's what my piece is about. My experience as a Jewish woman in 2020.
Wow. Okay. And I feel like that wow was so on behalf of anybody that's going to be watching this. And that's the thing too. I think that's what well, I mean, it's unfortunate that those are the experiences that you're having, right? Or at least witnessing through all these photographs and witnessing in person yourself too. Um, that's the thing. I think that's one of the beauties about being able to perform things like this is that For example, like while I am aware of the anti-Semitism in this country, and how it's a big issue and how we still have Nazis for some reason, right? Like,
Racism is a huge issue in this country, and
yeah,
Judaism is the only quote unquote religion that you're born into, so it's considered a race. And so, yes, anti-Semitism, but still, it's racism. So, you know, it's just everywhere.
yeah, and
Against, you know, Latinos. It's against Indians. It's against Native American Indians. It's against Asian populations. It's against Africans. It's against everybody. And it's like we live in the United States, which is built on a melting pot of everybody coming here. And it's just, I mean, obviously on the backs of others, but it's crazy to me. It's a rabbit hole of wonder.
yeah, yeah, and I think, and I think that's where I was going. Is like that while I am aware of it, it's one of those things that you're never really going to understand like how deep it is. And so, like if you were to ask me on issues like on brown issues, right, or on black issues, like I can talk about it all day, right? Because it's just like it's where I was born. Like I was like these are the communities that I was surrounded in, and I was raised in it, and so I witnessed it. But there's others that I don't, and so I think that's the beauty about this is that you get to show a glimpse of what's happening in areas that people don't even know it's happening in, right?
Right.
Like for example, we think that, generally speaking, we argue that California is pretty progressive, that it is like you said, a melting pot, that it is peaceful and all this, but like you'd be surprised at how much that isn't actually true. There's parts, sure, like in Northern California and stuff like that, but there's even parts here in LA where
Oh,
you see those things and it's awful and it's insane and you don't understand how that happens. And so for you to be able to show a glimpse of that is, I think, pretty amazing, especially knowing that it's something that affects you, right? Because that's sort
it's
of,
it's so crazy. And then I thought, before I thought about the images, I thought, okay, well, asking my friends, have you ever had an experience where you felt where people were anti-Semitic towards you? And a couple people said, yes, I had this happen, and I wanted to do like an interview with different people. So one night I was thinking to myself, okay, what happened to me? Well, I was 15 years old in high school, and the kids in my class threw pennies at me and said, pick it up, Jew. Then I had a boyfriend and his mom is sitting across from us at lunch and says, you can play with her, but you can't marry her. This 20 years ago. And then I have a roommate and she's looking at me and circling me. I'm like, what are you looking at? She's like, I'm looking for your horns. I was told that Jews have horns.
yeah,
That's not a joke.
yeah, that is insane. And that's the thing too. Because I think this is one of those things that um, it performance itself becomes a medium, right? Because you have all these experiences and these traumas for some people, that you carry with you for like, you've been carrying that with you, right? Um, and while you don't get to show all of it on stage, you do get to show people a little bit of it to maybe have them possibly entertain the idea that, hey, this is kind of messed up, right? And obviously, it's a lot deeper than just saying that it's messed up, but it's one step forward. And that's the thing too. And it sounds so weird that this is sort of promotional material, right? Because we're talking about something
Right.
that's so serious and has affected people not only through politics, but literally life and death for some people, right? Like it's killed
Mhm.
people. And so it's a serious thing. So it's weird talking about this as a promotional aspect, but I think this is sort of a gist of what we get to see in this performance. And to me, and this is something real quick, and to me, it's interesting because last semester when they sort of switched to online out of nowhere because of the stay-at-home orders, um, there was a lot of fumbling, right? It's like, how do you had a whole show, then you have to scrap it and have a new show and put it online, but you guys have had this whole semester to work on it, and granted, I don't know what's happening with the other people, aside from like one other person or two other people. It just sounds like you guys really, really, really just sort of,
We
I don't,
dug deep.
yeah, like you went with the flow, like it didn't deter you, and you guys did more than just going with the flow, right? Like you said, you dug deep, like you're all hitting incredible points.
You know what's
eh,
crazy is in the class when we started originally talking about our ideas and how they've morphed over the last 4 weeks, 3 weeks. It's really cool to see people's pieces evolve into what they're evolving into, because just in the last 2 weeks they've really clicked together, and it's like, wow, I really see your vision, and it really translates into, it's very powerful. So I'm very lucky to be part of this class. And for anybody out there that's looking to do performance ensemble next semester, I would say 100% take it, because it's going to force you out of your what you thought the class was going to be, and it's going to force you to do something new.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if there's any word to describe or any phrase to describe it, I think it really is making people feel comfortable with doing things that may seem uncomfortable, like being, and so um and since we're sort of closing out the show now, I wanted to ask you one more thing. If there is anything else that you want to say about the show, anything that you want to say about your piece, or just anything in general for our audience.
I'll say this about the show. Everybody in our show is from different backgrounds and different histories, and that translates into the pieces that everyone will be watching. I think that's so cool. It's not homogenous at all. It is multifaceted. It is ugly. It is beautiful. It is frustrating. It is sensitive. It is beautiful. It's everything all blended into one. And I'm very fortunate to be part of this class, and fortunate to have an instructor and our TAs that are also multifaceted. And so we're very fortunate. And anybody out there that's looking to express themselves and feels like um, held back by the process, jump in and take performance ensemble. It's definitely worth it. And we go to school at CSUN, and CSUN, like I said, is a mixture of all different types of people that all want to be there for the same reason. And we're very fortunate at that.
That was that was beautifully said. I think with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. This has been CSUN Performance Ensemble Presents a Conversation with. I am your host, Fernando Martinez, and this is.
Me, Tiffany Bosch.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me.
Yeah, and so now we're gonna do this thing where we wave goodbye to the camera.
Okay. Bye, everybody.